Well, let's talk about these issues in the return of Parliament with our political strategist now. Susan Smith is Liberal strategist, principal and co-founder of Blue Sky Strategy Group. Cole Hogan, a Conservative strategist, and George Soule, an NDP strategist and founder of On Step Strategies. Welcome back to all three of you.
Hello.
Thanks for having us.
Listen, so today begins with the government introducing this GST measure, measures for affordability when it comes to groceries. Does affordability, literally bread and butter issues, need to be the focus of this government? Because affordability, George, does seem to be the soft underbelly of the Carney government right now.
Well, I think for sure. I think you've seen Mark Carney spend a lot of time on the international stage, and much of that I know we'll get to, and I think is justified. But I think at the end of the day, none of that matters if folks can't afford to put food on the table anyway, and that's a real struggle for people. I think some of what might be hard for the Liberals to get through is this announcement is all coming in July and then or in June, and they're going to say, there's all kinds of bureaucratic reasons for that, but people need the help right now. We saw the NDP today mention that in 2022 there was an emergency kind of GST rebate that was sent out, and so in October the House talked about it, and by November people had those checks. So I think that kind of quicker action is needed on top of this kind of longer term stuff too.
Mm-hmm. Does this need to be a priority for the government, Susan?
I think affordability is always an issue for the government, and
has it been though? I mean, they've criticized for not moving on it enough.
So what they've been moving on is the structural pieces in the economy to create the jobs, to right-size the industries, and to put emphasis on home building and manufacturing and things like that. That's long-term affordability issues, and I think it's been harder for people to see what the short-term affordability issues are. They canceled the gas tax. That was immediate and evident to everybody. And so I think this will get noticed as well, but it's always been an issue for the government.
Cole, what do you say to that?
Sure, there was some immediate effect with the elimination of the carbon tax too. So Mark Carney and the Liberal government got to say, look, we did it, and there was some impact and effect that Canadian consumers could see right away. When I was looking through the announcement today, they said that low-income, single person would get about $170, and a low-income family of four would get $270 on this rebate. $270 is barely a week's worth of groceries for a family of four. So there's a matter of scale here, and is it enough that Canadians can see that the Liberal government is actually doing enough on the cost of living? It'll have to be, a myriad of measures, not just one small rebate that helps you out on a minor scale, and we'll see if they can actually build up to that message when they're stronger on other files.
Yeah, I do wonder about the vulnerability of the government on this one, Susan, because and I'll compare it to Joe Biden, because Joe Biden kept talking about how the economy was doing great, but he was talking about investors. But when it came to people trying to balance the checkbook, trying to afford groceries, pay the rent, they weren't seeing it. And that seems to still be the similar challenge right now for this government.
I think there are people that do feel the strength of the economy and will continue to. If you're a home builder, you're a welder, you're a manufacturer, you're working in the defense sector, those are where people will feel the impacts. That takes a little bit longer. For some Canadians, there's no question that groceries are a struggle at the moment, and I think that's what the government has moved to address. They're listening.
Mm-hmm. Now, the Conservative leader does begin this week after releasing that statement, that letter to the Prime Minister saying that he is willing to work with the government. Okay, you're rolling your eyes. I'm going to get to you in a second, but he is willing to work with the government when it comes to affordability and other issues. I'm wondering, what is inspiring this new attitude? Is this a new attitude, Susan?
What's inspiring this is the leadership review that Pierre Poilievre has this coming weekend, and the criticism that he maybe is finally hearing that all he's been doing is complain and offer not a single solution to the government. Opposition's job is to oppose, there's no question, but Poilievre hasn't put anything else in the window. So he's trying. It's weak, it's lame. He hasn't helped the budget bill pass, which will help many initiatives come forward to Canadians. But this is a desperate sign from Mr. Poilievre, who desperately needs to show the Conservatives who will be voting as to whether or not he can stay on as leader, that he can do something other than complain and say that Canada is broken. He lost members right before Christmas. We had another floor crossing right before Christmas. There are still caucus members who are nervous, and they're tired of him not providing an alternative. This is his attempt. I don't know if Canadians will buy it or not, but he's got to start somewhere.
Is this about leadership?
If the efforts from Pierre Poilievre were to appease the base, he wouldn't be doing or attempting to do nonpartisan things. If he wanted to just speak to the base, he would perhaps go harder right now than he is. I think that Pierre is trying to demonstrate that the Conservatives, because I think there's been like a public clamoring for this. Pundits like ourselves and others have said we need to soften the tone. There's always the tone conversation, and work with Mark Carney and the Liberal government to get a few things done for all Canadians. And I think this is the beginning of that different approach. So we saw in his letter to the Prime Minister, Pierre Poilievre said, if there's anything you can do to lower the cost of groceries for Canadians, we'll vote for it, we'll fast track it. The other 3 points were on bail reform, crime, energy, and trade. These are things that Conservatives will vote for the Liberal legislative agenda and vote with Mark Carney to get things done for Canadians. And that's what usually everyone has been pushing for Pierre Poilievre to do. So I think that there's, a double-facing effort here to win over more Canadians, the 1 million votes that we need, in addition to satisfying the base and trying to grow beyond it so we can get more voters and win the next election.
Okay, I'm hearing Susan behind me. Go for it.
Double-face is more like two-faced. Mr. Poilievre's incapable of doing anything that isn't partisan. And if you actually take the time to read the text of the letter, it's completely loaded with partisan innuendo. He may finally move legislation through committee, but only if it's got the amendments that he's proposing. So the proof will be in the pudding, the proverbial pudding on that, and I'll wait to see. And I think this is entirely about his positioning in advance at Calgary this weekend.
Liberals want Pierre Poilievre to be more conciliatory and more nonpartisan and work with the Liberal government. Here he is. I think Canadians will reward him for it.
Is it conciliatory? Like, I was listening to Question Period today. I don't know how conciliatory it was, George.
In the statement, they said if there's anything you can do to lower the cost of groceries for Canadians, we'll vote for it.
Yeah, but while I punch you in the face at the same time, that's not conciliatory.
Okay, George?
Well, yeah, look, I mean, the tone of the letter is anything but conciliatory. I mean, it's pure Poilievre. But I also think Susan's also wrong that this has nothing to do with the convention. I think Cole's right on that one point, is that the convention wants more of the fire and brimstone, the stuff that's turning everybody off. But the issue is some of that everybody that's being turned off by Pierre Poilievre are the members of his caucus. And so where the kind of, hey, we can work with this, progressive conservative government that has labeled themselves as liberals, that's what his caucus is telling them. So Pierre Poilievre needs to do more of that, because his conservative MPs, especially those from most of the country outside of Alberta, are feeling more and more comfortable with where Mark Carney is taking his government. So Pierre Poilievre needs to acknowledge that and show that he's willing to take those conservative policies that Mark Carney's putting forward and support them. He can't just oppose them the way he was opposing Justin Trudeau.
Okay, but what's the litmus of that, though? Is it just these nice words, or does he have to actually show some type of compromise?
Yeah, I think that's the difference, because if we look at Davos, in particular, that was a great speech, and Pierre Poilievre, in the spirit of nonpartisanship, once again said well-crafted and eloquently delivered speech.
Because the whole world was saying that, but
I
don't think it's different. I think it's a case of a leader saying, "Where are my people going? Oh, I need to run ahead of them so they can follow me," and that's particularly, again, with his caucus. His MPs will want to vote for these things. So he has to say, we're going to vote for these things. And so that it looks like they're following him rather than him going where he has to go, because that's where they're pushing.
You talked about nice words, but in this, there's 3 paragraphs that open this letter. Can we feed ourselves despite your rhetoric? Can we fuel ourselves despite your rhetoric? Can we defend ourselves despite your rhetoric? He's taking the speech that the Prime Minister made at Davos that received acclaim around the world, across the country and around the world. And this absolutely is a partisan charge. So we'll see what Mr. Poilievre does. I think it's right. He's got to show to caucus, because there are caucus members that are nervous and may cross the floor.
Okay, let me jump in very quickly. I was going to play a clip here, not enough time, but I do want to talk about Davos before we're done. It happens. He gives a speech. Worldwide acclaim, right? Everybody except Donald Trump has gotten under Donald Trump's skin. How wise was that speech? Yes, he said the quiet part out loud, but did he need to, when we are at this point about to negotiate the free trade deal with the United States and Mexico?
We're not negotiating the free trade deal. They're reviewing it.
Well, they're
reviewing it. But let's think about, take a
step
step back and
look at... Which will either lead to a negotiation or not.
Sure,
Let's be fair.
Okay, fair, Michael. Donald Trump is Donald Trump. Donald Trump can wake up in a foul mood because he stubbed his toe or he has a hangnail. Mark Carney got up at a very important global forum and said what needed to be said. People applauded his thoughtfulness on it. He also set the table for the kind of trade deals that Canada is going to be looking to continue to do in the world. He basically said, we're not going to align on every partner on every level of value, but we're going to of values. We're going to find the best match that we can, and we're going to do a deal, because the hegemons can't do it anymore. There's 2 hegemons in the world, pretty much everybody else is a middle or a small power. So he set the table so that the middle powers know what they're dealing with Canada and are ready to start to have those conversations. And I think it needed to be done. It was a very, very important speech in global history, actually.
Did it need to be done, Cole?
I think there was there's some great language and rhetoric in the Prime Minister's speech talking about the middle powers getting together to address Trump, even though not addressing him by name in this speech. We still got the backlash that we expected. So I think there was some absolute merit and substance to those arguments, but it was still, to Poilievre's letter that was read out loud there, it was just rhetoric, and people can't eat speeches. So if we're looking at, the conversation where we're talking about, the Liberals do this. Mark Carney did this when he announced his Liberal leadership campaign. He went on Jon Stewart's show to soft launch his leadership race. He did multiple trips to Washington and the States during the election. And now, whenever they want to try to set the domestic news agenda, they go to a foreign platform to do it, to try to dominate the news sphere. And they're quite successful in doing it. So I'll be watching if they do it again the next time they want to control the central narrative.
Okay, George, necessary or not?
Well, yeah, just to your question, I think it's too. Yeah, I'll agree with Susan on the point of Donald Trump's Donald Trump, and the European nations saw that where he has deals signed with them, but as soon as he got mad at them, he was bringing in tariffs as well. Anyway, so I think whatever agreement Donald Trump we are able to get with Donald Trump isn't. Never mind the paper it's written on. It's not worth the paper he wipes his butt with. He just throws these things out. What I do want to see though from Mark Carney is a firmer stance in actually dealing with Donald Trump head on. Just an example of this board of peace that Donald Trump put together. Mark Carney was invited to join it with such peaceful luminaries as Vladimir Putin, Benjamin Netanyahu, and Tony Blair, and never actually said no. He always said, in principle, I support it. We're looking at it. It wasn't until he gave this speech and then Donald Trump actually uninvited him that he's not on it. And so he just needs to be more clear. It's this big speech that took a lot of attention and I think was important, but it's not followed up by actual actions or even strong words against Donald Trump directly, which is where Canada needs to be now. We can't partner up with this guy. He's way beyond any validity at all.
Okay, well, that starts out the session. We've got a whole winter to bring together. Susan, Cole, George, thank you very much.
Thanks.